Okay.
Oh, now it's gone. Minimize him. You're the first one. We won't mess up on everybody else.
No, that's okay.
It's actually behind.
Nothing but time.
Yeah. There, it's behind there.
There
All
you
right.
go.
All right. Thank you, Laura. All right. Okay, go ahead.
Terrific. Well, I had hired, and we get inundated whenever I have an opening, 150, 175 resumes, and that's with video links and everything. So, and I go through every one of them. I do look at the written resume first to see what kind of experience anyone has, and then I go to the video. This one person just jumped out at me. Her name is Christina Zverjako, and that's Zverjako. Christina had sent the tape, or her resume to me, and I looked at it and I was just bowled over because she's an MMJ, but the things she was doing was stuff that I hadn't seen before. And Dr. Blue, I think you have her YouTube tape.
I do. Do you want to roll that?
There's one, the second piece on there, she's one-man banding, and she's doing a story on dyslexia. And she holds up this chart and then puts in, what do you call it, a magnifying glass over it. And, she types up some words on it, but she does all this as an MMJ. And you have to see it to see how creative it is.
Do you want us to show it now? Here we go.
It's the second shot. She's doing a story on dyslexia, and it's a stand-up, the second thing on her reel.
Okay, we'll show it now.
Okay.
You can't see it, can you? No.
No.
I can point you at it.
No, I don't have the audio.
Down the street. When a person with dyslexia tries to read, words typically move or float around, but as soon as a right lens is flipped on, the movement stops. Okay, so this is all actually for charity. Here's the most important part. Last year, $50,000 was raised.
Now she's in a storm drain.
Exactly what I'm doing now.
Okay, maybe the next one.
No, we saw it. We saw it.
Oh, okay, so
let's go back to you. Let's go back to you.
and just that piece of video was the second thing I think on there. And that just got my attention. I said, how did she do that? And it's just going beyond what a normal multimedia journalist would do instead of just shooting and doing interviews. And I thought she got really creative on her stand-up. So that got my attention. And as I kept looking at her resume tape, she was going into a storm drain. She's on a roof of a house. It was just really, now she had photographers for those, obviously. But it just told me she wasn't afraid to get her hands dirty. And after talking with her, I was just wowed with her experience. She had only been working in Bakersfield, I think, for 6 months or so. But she had gone to Arizona, University of Arizona, or Arizona State, went to the Cronkite School of Journalism there. She had done an internship in Washington, D.C., where she did some Capitol Hill reports and stuff like that. And I just thought for someone of her age, right out of school, she had really good experience. So when I interviewed her, she interviewed very well. So out of, say, 175 resumes, she absolutely was the cream of the crop. Now, it didn't hurt her cause that she was also interviewing with my competitor across the street. And there was no way I was going to lose her and see her every night at 6 o'clock on my competitor. So her interview skills, her resume tape, the way she carried herself, that just really bowled me over. And matter of fact, we here in Mobile.
She's holding a spider now. She's holding a spider. You like that one?
What's she doing?
Holding a spider.
Yeah, and that's live.
Yeah.
Any kind of interaction you have, don't put yourself in danger, guys. But any kind of interaction that you can do to separate yourself and get involved with the story. Because anybody can talk to officials and do all that stuff. It's getting to talk to people and showing people that you can be engaged in your stories. And I thought she had all those qualities.
That's pretty good for questions. Okay. Can you answer some questions? Can you answer some questions for people here? Yes, here's one.
Sure.
I'll repeat it. So, How important is that montage at the beginning? How closely do you look at that stand-up montage to determine how much more you watch?
Did you hear that?
No, ma'am.
Okay, how closely do you look at the montage at the beginning to let that determine, and does that determine whether you watch the rest?
That's real important to me. At first, you know, and you hate to be so shallow, but you get to see what a person looks like. But I like the montage because I think it's a quick, 45 seconds to a minute look at how creative someone can be on a stand-up. And instead of just standing in front of buildings, I want to see people walking, talking, holding things or holding things up. So montages, to me, I like to see them just because I get to see what they look like and hear what they sound like.
Another one? Yes.
How long does he watch a resume reel before he decides if he's going to move on or not?
How long do you watch a resume reel before you decide to move on?
I know in the first 30 seconds. Normally,
Heard that before.
you could tell by the voice. You can tell what kind of storyteller, and how, make sure the noun-verb agreement is there. Once I got past the 30-second mark, you got me engaged. But the montage, make it quick. Give me five stories in there, and then get into your first package, and make your first package, pretty good. It just can't be a story on the state legislature. If you're going there to talk about a certain issue, you got to give me people, and you got to be engaged in it.
Yes.
So what do you do before you look at the stand-up reel that may help you decide not to bother with the reel?
What do you look at before the reel to make you decide whether or not you should look at the reel, or do you look at something first?
I look at them all anyway because I kind of have a current file, then I have a futurist file, where if I see someone with a lot of potential, but maybe they're just coming right out of school and they're not ready to go, we're market 59. We're not the biggest market, but we can get away with getting people with 2 years experience. But if I see someone out of college like Christina was, pretty much, I looked at her immediately. But I'll also have a futures file where in 2 years, I'm going to make sure I have that file available if I have an opening. But I always look at the resume first.
One more question. We have 2 more news directors, so let me get one more question to you, and then I'll let you go back to work. Yes?
Sure.
What are some particular line items on a resume that stand out above the rest that particularly draw your eye to a particular candidate?
Okay, what are some line items on a resume that get your attention, that draw your eye, that sort of differentiates from all that paper on your desk?
Internships, number one, and the school. I'm not going to lie, it depends on, certain schools just jump out at you. But the internships, if I see someone who's in college and they have some actual experience in a newsroom that they make an attempt to dedicate 20 hours of their lives, usually for free, that tells me something about their work ethic. So if you can, anyone who get an internship, do it. Bug the news directors in your hometown, I let all my interns go out in the field with reporters. If you go on the producer track, they hang out with my producers. So when you leave here, you'll get a resume tape made here.
Okay, I got one follow-up on that. Tell me what about the schools? I mean, do you have particular schools that you like, or is there a school that turns out great people from your experience? Or I'm not asking you to name schools, just what about the school?
I think the ones with the strong journalism departments and, with the history over the past, 22 years as news director, I've had certain schools and I've developed relationships, like with Nancy DuPont at Ole Miss. If I get a call from Nancy DuPont and says, I've got a student, I'm going to listen to Nancy DuPont. I'm going to listen to Dr. Blue. If she has someone at Tulane who's got, given our history. I hired someone from Ole Miss back in September, and he's my morning reporter, and turning out the guy's going to be a star. He's going to be very, very good. But there are certain schools, I look at their programs, and if I have a relationship out of those programs with professors, then a lot of times I'll go back to that well.
So do you, if you see a school that you're not familiar with, do you go to their website and look for their program? Is that what you're talking?
I do. I go back to there and I look at the list of professors in the journalism department, And just to see, again, this is such a small business. A lot of people who are reporters or photographers or producers end up going to teaching. And I'll go and see if I know anybody on there that I can use as a good resource.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. Let's apply.
Thank you for inviting me, Dr. Blue.
Okay. Well, you'll get my bill now.
Okay.
Bye-bye. Okay. So I'm going to call the next one, which is
If we have time a little bit later, I'll show you the resume of the second to the last hire that he got. I think if Bob is really honest, while the resume impressed him, the student has had a hard time coming along. So I appreciate him saying he will be a star, but he's not a star yet.
What does that mean?
That's the ringtone.
Oh, Lee.
Yeah.
Hi, Mary Blue. Do you see your audience here?
I'm seeing the ceiling.
You're seeing the ceiling. Let me close it down.
Yes,
There they are. Okay. This is Lee Anderson from Bend, Oregon. Beautiful Bend, Oregon. KTVZ and KFXO. Why don't you start by telling us about the person you hired most recently who stood out from the crowd?
Well, I've hired several outstanding people, Mary. I'm a little bit jaded about the kinds of people we've hired here in Bend, but I'll let you know about one person in particular who wanted to be with you, but unfortunately, even as a manager, I have to give people vacations every once in a while. So she's not with us, but she was sitting in the exact same seats that you were just last year at NAB. Okay, her name is Grace Joyle. She's our 5 p.m. producer and assignment editor. I hired her right after she attended NAB last year, after she graduated from North Carolina, to be my 6 p.m. producer. In small markets, we're number 193. You have to get producers where you can, and I like the challenge of hiring young people like yourselves right out of college and helping them to not only grow our news product, but their careers.
Okay, you sent us her resume. Tell us what on her resume stood out to you.
Well, a couple of things. Number one, you can imagine being news director in Market 193, I get a lot of resumes, okay? A lot of unsolicited resumes from people that are getting ready to graduate. They think, well, I've been told I got to go to markets that are smaller, so I'm going to send my resume in. Her resume had a lot of things that showed me, particularly as a producer, that she took initiative, and she worked hard, and I could tell just by some of the things on her resume that she was a self-starter, okay? She took initiative and did things. Originally she wanted to get into radio, but even that, even though that's not obviously what I was hiring for, it showed me that she could do good journalism and could be very well organized, and she showed initiative. One of the things that is impressive to me, and probably the most impressive, at the NAB show last year, she was invited by BEA to come and accept an award for one of the stories she did. While she was there, she went to the seminar, as you're doing right here now, and afterwards she went around to the different booths there in Las Vegas and found our company, we're based out of St. Joe, Missouri. We're active in recruiting. In fact, a couple of weeks ago, I was down at Arizona State University interviewing some students down there. But she went up to our booth at NPG, and they already had a list of job openings available. She was a person who was very engaging, and she went and she talked to these people, showed some interest. What she said was, News Press and Gazette handed out packets with every open position. Not a lot of companies will do that, but if you see these companies, make sure you take advantage of this. She said she wasted no time in reaching out. The packets had the news director's name and address. Within 24 hours, she made contact with each job on the list, and within 48 hours, she had a solid job offer. And despite that, I still got it. Those two, job offer. So you can see, and her advice to you folks is this, and I wanted to use her as an example because she can relate to what you're doing a lot more than I can, okay? She sat there as you did last year, all right? Be engaging, be compelling, okay? When you talk to people, she likes to say, dress for the job you want, and that I can guarantee you that will get you a much longer way than someone showing up that's not ready to be a professional, okay? It's the professionalism you show that makes the difference. As I said, I get hundreds of resumes. What sets a person apart? Well, sometimes it's not easy. You're in a situation right there. I give you credit for showing up at this event. Go and meet news directors. Introduce yourself. If you've got cards, hand them out. Hand out your resumes. Talk to these people. They're just human beings, okay? My biggest fear when I was your age was, boy, how do I go about doing that? Just do it. Just go in there and talk to them. Say hello. Introduce yourself. Tell them where you go to school, what your plans are. You know, it never hurts, okay? You'll find out 20 years from now, okay? I guarantee it. We work in a very small industry, and it's a very small fraternity. Some of these people, just look around you, remember their faces. You're going to see them again and again. I guarantee it. You'll be like, oh, Bob went to, he's in New Jersey now. Oh, where's Sue? Oh, she's in Miami. We move all around the country, we make friendships, and we keep them, you know. Bill Clinton told us, you know, building bridges to the future, that's what you have to do, okay? You always have to think about that. And just be engaging, be yourselves. You've already taken one step in initiative in being at this conference. That's good. Now take the next step, follow up with it, okay?
So you gave us also the materials you gave us a little statement that she had written about herself. Did that have some weight? Was that important? Do you think these students should do that too?
Well, she wrote this specifically for my discussion with you.
Oh, I see. Okay, I thought that was part of her application. Okay, all right.
I gave her a little assignment here to tell me what it was that she did when she went to that conference and where her head was at kind of when she went to that conference.
Okay.
What kinds of things would help these young people to be as successful as she has been.
Okay.
And I thought that was important. I wish she could have been here to talk to you personally too, because she's a terrific employee, obviously, and really a great person who would obviously have some degree of motivation for these folks too.
Okay.
But
can they ask you some questions now?
Absolutely.
Okay, they'll ask and I'll repeat. Yes.
So if there are 100 people interviewing, or if there are 100 people sitting in resumes, how many people can you interview?
If 100 people are sending you resumes, how many do you interview?
Boy, that's a hard one to say. I'd probably say 10% of those.
10.
Now that's obviously a very small number, but you have to understand too that I still have 4.5 hours of live news to put on every day too. So it's not like I can spend all my life looking at resumes. And when I look, and I'm sure you've had this advice before, it only takes me about 10 seconds to know whether or not you're going to go in that pile of let me look again, or what I like to call the good luck in your career pile.
Is that 10 seconds on the reel or 10 seconds on the resume?
That's on the reel.
Okay. All right.
With television here. I have to hear you and I have to hear you, see you as well.
Hang on, another question, yes?
What do you look for in producers? Whereas a reel can tell a lot about a reporter, but what about producers?
What do you look for when somebody wants to get a job as a producer?
Well, the first thing I want to see on a resume is that you've done something, okay? And that's, and in most cases, if you're going to be a producer, you will have done something. You know, if you haven't done something by yourself, which, our Grace Joyle did, producing her own show, if you've worked with producers in a capacity of maybe an internship, if you've worked assignment desk before, if you're familiar with E&PS, which is pretty much what we use as the standard for stacking shows and whatnot, you just have to give me something that shows that you've done something. If you've got, a lot of people are like, well, what do I put on a reel if I'm going to be a producer? Put the first block of your show on. I can see the stacking. Maybe you send me a note or two about, hey, this is why I stacked it this way, and that kind of stuff. It just gives me an indication that you've done something, and that's the most important thing for
Can I ask you, if you ask for the first block, does 10 seconds still tell you what you need to know? The first.
Well, obviously, in that case, I'm going to have to look at the whole thing.
Thank you.
But
Okay.
I'm talking about, like, if I get a talent reel as opposed to
Yeah,
a producer's,
right.
I'm going to look at it a little more in depth.
Okay. Okay. Another question. Yes.
Just a follow-up, does it matter if the producer's putting the first block of the show, are you looking at what the talent is doing, or is it the talent performance, or is it just the content?
Are you when you look at that first block, do you look at what the talent are doing, or do you really try to pay attention to the staff and the tech, or do the technical aspects? You know, colleges sometimes have technical issues that don't have anything to do with what the producer did.
Right. No, I don't really pay much attention to the technical aspect.
Or the talent?
The talent, a little bit, and I'll tell you why that is. If you've got a poorly written show and the talent's out there stumbling, it might not be because you've got really bad talent, it might be because the writing is, you're putting a bunch of tongue twisters in there. So I'm going to listen to the story very intently, because maybe the producer had something to do with it, maybe not. But in my mind, a producer should grab a hold of all the stories and take a look at them and massage them, edit them as needed to make it a good show. So the producer has ultimate responsibility in my mind. Now, technical aspects, in fact, I'm glad you asked that. Down at ASU, I sat in on the Cronkite News Watch program that they put on every day. There were some glitches. I understand that. That's not going to be a problem. But I want to know what the people do after there's a glitch. Okay, your professionalism shows through when you have a problem. How do you deal with it? So I'm going to be looking at that very closely too. I know things are going to happen technically that are out of practically everyone's control. So I keep that into consideration. But I'm going to mainly listen for the writing and the storytelling, and then I'm going to take a look at how that flowed on the rundown, okay, the stacking. And then, and this is very important, I want to know how you get out of that first news block. I want to hear tease writing. That's so important. And you're going to hear this all your life from consultants. Don't treat teases as something else that you have to do. It's vitally important. It's as important as any story. Okay, so that's another thing that I'm going to be listening very carefully for.
Okay. One more question. Yes.
How important is the college you went to when you're considering hires? And if it is important, what do you do about liberal arts students?
Okay. How important is the college to you, the college that the student went to? And if it is, what about liberal arts students? Do you just ignore them, or what? That's who I teach, liberal arts.
I try not to ignore anyone. You know, I've had success from people who come from journalism as graduate students from Northwestern. I've got an Ivy Leaguer in my newsroom right now. These are all fine and good. I've had kids from Syracuse, I've had kids from Missouri. You know, they're really top-notch schools. But I myself, I came from Indiana State University, ISU. Okay, I screwed up, we called it. All right. You're a great guy. Thank you.
Okay, one more question and then we gotta go. Yes?
Is it a problem if a lot of what's on a talent reel is student work, class work, that sort of thing?
Okay, is it a problem if a lot that's on a reel is student work, class work, that kind of thing?
Not at all. That's what I want to see. You know what? I know your students. I know you're going to have room to grow. I'm going to look for potential as much as anything, okay? Don't get ashamed or embarrassed about what you're on your reel. If you put a bunch of nonsense and really bad stuff on your reel, okay, probably shouldn't have done that. But most of you are, sharp enough to know that I'm going to put some good stuff on this. I want him to see my potential, and that's what I'm going to look for, okay? It's amazing. I save stuff from the people I hire right out of college. 3 years later, when they leave, I say, let's go look at that college reel again. And they're all so embarrassed.
Yeah.
okay? And we get a good kick out of that, big laugh out of it, but they move on and they're successful and they're like, man, that's a vast difference. I said, yeah, but you got the job here, so you did something right, so,
Okay.
you know, you're saying, put it out there.
All right. Well, thank you very much. We'll let you go back to work. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh, wait, I guess I gotta click. I can't. I use my iPad with my finger, and then I try to use my finger on this. Dave Beach. There we go.
Right already.
Dave Beach, I'll tell you, is at WTVA in Tupelo, Columbus, Mississippi. I hope he'll answer soon.
Sorry, which station did you say?
WTVA, Tupelo, Columbus. Dave? Hi.
Hello.
Here I am. I am showing you to your audience. Do you see them?
Hello, everyone.
Okay. So first, what we want to know is, tell us about the last person you hired, or one of the last people you hired, and what set them apart from all the rest of the people who interviewed, or who sent in a resume.
Well, one of the last people I hired is a reporter. That's his name is Andrew Tyler Hill. He goes by Tyler Hill on air here. I met him at at the University of Southern Mississippi during a Mississippi Broadcasters Association meeting. And what set his reel apart from, you know, the hundreds of resumes that are sent to me on a monthly basis, you know, he had three pretty decent stand-ups, and he could tell a story, and that's what I'm looking at. I've received resumes where, you know, people have 5 minutes worth of stand-ups, every stand-up they've ever done. And I lose interest after about a minute and a half, especially these days where we all have attention deficit disorder. You know, you've got to get me right from the start, and that's one of the things that Tyler did. You know, his stand-ups were right there, and I think I sent the link, and you can see that he just, you know, had 3 quick, short and easy sound bites that I think that lasted a minute. And then he had 2 of his better packages. So that impressed me greatly.
How about did you look at his resume first, and did that lead you to his reel, or do you just go right to the reel?
I go right to the reel. I don't look at resumes. You can fall in love with a resume, and you convince yourself that this person is a great reporter when they've had a lot of interesting, you know, 6 months here, 3 months there. So I always look at what the person shows me on camera.
Okay.
And then once I say, okay, this is somebody that I like, I have on my email, I have, when I you know, put it out that I'm looking for somebody, I create a separate folder that says, you know, March 2014 reporter. And then I have a subfolder under that that says nope, and then I have another folder that says talk to this. And so I start going through. And if someone makes a mistake in how I spell my name, okay, they go in the note file. If someone doesn't do any research about the station, just sends out a form letter, please accept this, you know, resume as an application for your job, it goes in the note file. So why do I do that? I'm looking for somebody that, you know, this business rewards self-starters. You cannot make it in this business if you need to be constantly told what to do. You have to, on your own, go out and find stories. You have to, on your own, go out and find who is in charge of, you know, whatever program. So I look for people that find out who the heck I am. Find out here, WTVA. You know, who are we? What do we do? So I have an opening right now for an anchor position. And I've received an email from an anchor that I used to, we work in the same market. And he sends me every week, hey, take a look at my resume. if he'd ever once acknowledged that we had worked in the same market, I might take a look at his resume. But what that says about him by not doing any research, that to me says that he's a lazy reporter. And why would I want to hire a lazy reporter?
I don't know. Will you take a few questions from people?
Sure.
Look at the resume.
Oh, wait, do you want us to look at the resume there first, or do you want,
It's up to you if you have a question.
yeah, we can look at it when he's done. How about that? Okay. All right, questions? Questions? Yes. No? Oh, okay, yes.
So how short is too short for a resume reel and how long is
Okay,
too long?
how short is too short for a resume reel, for a reporter, right?
Yes.
For a reporter. And how long is too long?
I say about 3 or 4 stand-ups and 2 or 3 of your best stories.
However long that takes.
Yep.
And how long do you look at them before you quit?
If I like them, I'll watch the entire thing. I'll watch the entire resume reel. If I see something that turns me off, that, you know, if I had a young woman who recently sent me 5 minutes of stand-ups. Okay, and you see all these bad stand-ups, and it's like, okay, you're going in the note file.
Did you watch all 5 minutes of those stand-ups?
No,
Okay.
no. After a while, I said, how long is this going on? Where's the reporting? It's over. So I went down to the end of it, it was still stand-ups.
Interesting. Yes.
What's your preferred way of receiving a demo reel?
What's your preferred way of receiving a demo reel?
A link to your demo reel online.
On YouTube or Vimeo or whatever link. Okay.
Can I add another one?
Yeah, one more.
What's your thought about online portfolios?
What do you think about online portfolios?
Haven't given that much thought at all. And actually, I would prefer YouTube videos. Sometimes Vimeo, you have to be a member. And again, you're trying to make it easy for news directors. Don't make it difficult for us. So if you have something behind a password that we have to, you know, then go and search, and if you don't include that password in your resume or the email you send to us, you know, I have very little time to go and try and search for that. Make it easy for news directors. Don't make it easy for us to put you in the note file.
Okay.
How important are other skills besides what the job they're applying for? Like as a reporter, does he want to see web experience?
Okay.
Producing?
How important are other skills other than what you're advertising for? For example, if you are trying to hire a reporter and they have web skills, is that important, or you know, ancillary skills, I guess?
All of that goes into, you know, why do we hire somebody? You know, so much of what we do these days is the web, social media. So are you well versed on those? Do you own that skill set? Do you know how to use a camera? Can you tell a picture with, you know, pretty pictures? What about jobs you've had in the past? Have you ever worked? Have you ever had to show up every day at 9 in the morning? I look at all of that.
Okay. All right. Another question.
Talk about dealing with agents.
Do you deal with agents?
No.
There we go. Short subject.
What market is this?
What market are you? I can't remember. What market?
130.
130, yeah. Yes.
If you're trying to anchor, how many clips do you need in the front?
What about people who want to anchor? You don't hire anchors right off, do you? Or you said you're advertising for an anchor. I guess you do.
You know, if the person is right, then yes, we will hire somebody out of college if they have the skill set.
Okay, so if somebody wants to send you an anchor reel, what do you want to see? Clips or one block?
Yes.
Or
Both clips, you know, sitting up on the anchor desk, tossing to a live shot, tossing to a weather anchor. You know, if the job were easy, anybody can do it. So how well do you handle distractions? How well do you handle when the live shot's not there, when a package is not there? That's what I look for in an anchor. You know, when the stuff hits the round fan, you know, do you go to pieces, or do you do you still remain that rock with the water washing over you?
Okay. Another one? Yeah. Hold on.
So if you're a reporter, should you show anchoring on your reel?
If you're a reporter, should you show anchoring on your reel? If you
Yes.
have it? Okay, yes. That's the easy answer.
Where does that go?
Where does that go on the reel?
Well, if you watch Tyler's reel, he had a little clip of him anchoring at Southern Miss at the end of his reel.
Okay.
And he has actually anchored show for us. What he's lacking right now is producing ability. Otherwise, he would be a strong candidate for our open anchor position. Occasionally, producers call in sick, and when that happens, we rely upon anchors to produce the newscast.
Is that opening a producer anchor position?
Is that opening a producer anchor position? Is it advertised like that?
It's advertised as a reporter anchor position. It's weekend anchor and reporting 3 days a
So you
week.
want someone who could back up the producer?
But you want somebody who could back up a producer, correct?
Yes. Yep. Well, I've always found the best reporters started off as producers.
Interesting. Why? Why? Give me an example of it.
Because they know how to tell a story 5 different ways. If you have to produce an hour or 2 hour long morning newscast, you're looking for 4 different ways to tell the same story. Right? You know what a good sound bite is. Sound should convey emotion. Sound should not be a statement of fact. We're professional communicators. We're supposed to state the facts. We're relying upon sound to convey the emotion of what happened. Well, if you're a producer, you learn good sound bites through osmosis. I mean, the networks feed you good sound bites every day. And you just learn what a good story is and how to put it together. And most reporters that start off as producers have their stories put together before they leave the building.
Okay. One more?
I was going to follow up with the producer question. So producers, if you get hired in as a producer, but you really want to report, is there opportunity to grow that way?
Okay, if you get hired as a producer, but you really want to report, is that avenue open?
In a smaller market, yes, it is.
Okay.
Previous news director position, I worked for a larger corporation, and I had a producer who was working in Portland, wanted to get on air. And I did not hire her because another news director in the same corporation hired her before I got a chance to. Anyway, long story short, she's in Las Vegas these days, and she, started off as a producer, and just put together a clip here or there, and I would have hired her. This size market, smaller market, if you start off as a producer, your chances are you're going to get an opportunity to report sooner than you would at a larger market. So yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
Okay.
Last chance. I'm going to say bye-bye. All right. Well, thank you, guys. All right. Okay. So next up are our esteemed faculty, who have also going to talk about the last person they taught that got hired. So
let me just ask a technical question. Should we put the audio line into my computer so that we can
well,
hear?
I think that's not really even a technical question. That's a logical question.
Oh. Well, I don't ask logical questions, so I had to make it technical.
Do you think they might want to hear?
Mary?
Yes.
Would it be possible to see the resume reel that he was talking about?
Yes, we have
We're
it
going
all.
to do
We
that
have
right
everything.
now. Perfect. Thank you.
It was we were kind of trying to play him at the same time, but I figured you'd rather hear him talk. Sorry.
You got problems there.
There. Well, it's just, you know how many chords there are here? Come on.
It's like my house.
So what is it?
Oh, it's like
Where's in your headphone jack?
Good. Now we don't have to worry
Now you
about
have
that
to
anymore.
put him on whatever.
All right, here's Tyler Hills, the one that he was just talking about.
I like the habit.
Has music.
He doesn't have the rights to.
Exactly.
It's probably
Make sure you go over a few precautions. Wear your bee suit and bring your smoker to calm the bees. For Hub City TV, I'm Tyler Hill. Homebrewing dates back to our founding fathers. In fact, George Washington brewed his own alcohol. but in Mississippi, it's illegal. A new law, however, could change that. The longleaf trace is inviting a jogging trail that extends 41 miles west through the Pine Belt. The longleaf trace users get ready because it's about to be extended into downtown Hattiesburg.
Yeah, that's weird. What's up with that?
Yeah.
Gulf Coast residents celebrated USM's Gulf Park campus' 5th annual Blues and Jazz Festival. The festival included entertainment for children and vendors of all kinds. An unlikely vendor emerged, however. Johanna Brower shouldn't be alive. 30 years ago, Brower's skull was crushed while stopping a fight in New Orleans.
And the next thing I know, the world was this way, and the next thing I know,
Good afternoon, everybody, or good morning. I think we're all having much the same reaction here. But let us not forget that this news director met this young man at a conference meeting, the Mississippi Broadcasters. And I think it's safe to say that that was the impression that got this kid this job. Because I would have hit eject in fewer than 10 seconds. Just saying.
Want to move on? Since we know the importance of the round robin of stand-ups at the beginning, we might as well pay a lot of attention to those because they're not watching beyond that if you don't get them there. I think that's the message I've gotten loud and clear. So, Dana, would you like to show your most recent?
Sure, you can call them.
All right. Okay.
One of the things that I ask my students,
I don't think it's turned on. It is.
I'm Dana Rosengard from Suffolk University in Boston, and one of the things I ask my students at the beginning of their senior year is if any of their grandmothers are news directors. And of course, I've been doing this since 1994, and I've never had any student whose grandmother was a news director. And the reason I ask that question is because if you look at most seniors, their first audition tape appears to really be directed at their grandmothers, right? And we heard it from these 3 news directors, every stand-up the student has ever done. We heard different numbers here, and I know all the students in the room, you want the magic formula. There's not a magic formula. I'm a 3 stand-up guy, 30 seconds, end of story. Because in 30 seconds, and we heard them allude to that number, they know. So find your 3 best stand-ups. I know you think your hair looks fabulous in 4. I don't care. And I don't think they care either. They're busy. So that, I think, is the #1 thing to really get into your heads as you go back to school, produce these reels. It's not every time you thought you had a cute outfit on. It's the 3 where you are presenting yourself the most professionally. You are interactive. Sure, you look good, it's television. I get that. You sound smart. You are interactive. You might move. You might take me as the viewer somewhere. You might show me, the viewer, something. But please, that's the biggest mistake I've seen since 1994. 8 stand-ups, 3 minutes, don't care, eject.
Okay, we'll watch.
So this is Dan McCarthy, who is a senior at Suffolk University, graduating. I show this because it's not perfect. Dear God, he only has 3 stand-ups in 30 seconds. I show it because he's a talented kid. He's here working the NAB show as one of the 8 Waskel TV interns, if any of you are familiar with that program. Right, so this is very standard. You start with a slate. The answer to the question is fewer than 10 seconds.
Pumps that they have at Starbucks, at Dunkin' Donuts. You can pretty much have a cup a day and be relatively healthy. So cheers to you guys.
Dan, quick question. How many of your fellows
didn't drink it
just power down coffee when they're trying to get ready for midterms?
I can't imagine anybody does it. I mean, the grades would be dropping at Suffolk pretty rapidly if there weren't 8 Dunkin' Donuts around here.
Pocket protector, big glasses, an affinity for the comic books, and a target of bullies.
The goal for the construction team is to get 2 in per day, so by next month, the foundation for 20 Somerset has been laid. It's called the snow-related expenses budget because once it's set, it's not supposed to budge. But this year, that's just not realistic. A medical marijuana business is planning to open in Boston's Back Bay, and it's sparking controversy. A Denver-based company, Good Chemistry, provided false information to state regulators in its license application, incorrectly claiming to have support from state legislators. The Suffolk University poll continues to show John Connolly with a slight lead over State Representative Martin Walsh in the election. Former Boston Mayor Thomas Menino announced that he has been diagnosed.
Okay, so clearly he's breaking
Well,
the
Boston
rule
is
here.
certainly a hockey crazy town, so if you want to know about the thrill of skating and scoring, you can try it out for free. We'll tell you how in our Suffolk Scene report that's coming up. The World Series is still underway.
So
with
if we
Red
had
Sox
just had the live shot, we have a very fabulous program with New England Cable News, which is a regional cable operation in Boston, headquartered in Boston and goes throughout New England, where two of our students on Tuesdays and Thursdays are doing live shots for the morning show. DMA 7, it's an unbelievable experience. So Dan did that. Hi, Mark. And then he had that geek one, where he was playing the role of the geek, and then he did the hard hat at the construction site. If it had ended there, it would have been perfect. But the best thing about this kid, and you heard it in that one sentence, the thing about a budget is it's not supposed to budge. That is such a great line. And the kid is creative. It's not just, here's a fact, I'm 6'2", here's a fact. He really, this is what I say about the student, he's my best writer. And we heard it from one of the news directors, and I mantra it all the time, lowest common denominator. Be a good writer. Whether you want to report, whether you want to anchor, whether you want to produce, whether you want to work for FedEx, ABC, Ford Motor Company, I don't care. Writing is the ticket.
What are your thoughts on the picture on the slate?
I don't remember what it was.
No, let's just in general.
Oh, I like it because again, this is a visual medium and it's the first thing they see. Now I will tell you, I have 8 juniors in a reporting class and their assignment last night, because clearly I wasn't with them, was to build this and send it to me as a JPEG. And of the 8, I told, I think 3 of them, the picture's all wrong.
It's the right picture.
Correct. So, I mean, this is a perfectly fine picture. He's clearly sitting at an anchor desk with lots of happy paper in front of him, and he's dressed professionally. Nice big smile. I think he looks approachable. But this was a little while I'm away assignment. Bethany.
Dana, where's the website?
Oh, you mean like a hot link? It's not here, but when you are directed to his YouTube video, very cleverly, and this is the first time I've seen this, it ends with 2 hot links, A, to a specific anchor reel, and B, to a specific producer reel. And so we heard one of our guest news directors here say this Tyler Hill kid would be a star if he knew how to produce, right? And you know, I went to summer camp as a kid, and at the end of summer camp, they always did this, you know, you can be the waterfront director for one day, you can be the head counselor for one day, and you switch roles. I make all of my students, I use the verb, make, I offer the opportunity to all of my students to report, to shoot, to edit, to anchor, God knows, but I also make them produce, I also make them direct. I teach directing, which is something I never did professionally, but it was another one of those things, if you know how to do it, then you're better at everything else. And it's amazing how many, and I will say this out loud, mostly women, get in that hot seat and they love it. They're like, I can boss everybody around. And it's wonderful to watch. And it's, you know, none of us want to be directors. I get that. But being able to walk into a control room and say, you know what? We're going on in 3 minutes. The headset's on. I checked that all of my floor people can hear me. And we're on in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Take camera 1, music under, cue anchor. Bam! So it's the collective skill set that I think you could speak to in an email, in a cover letter, in some other ways that make you stand out from the, what did this one guy say? 175 applications for every posted job. You gotta find a way, gotta have a hook.
This young man who was the most recently hired out of Ole Miss did not get his skills at Ole Miss. He was an undergraduate at Alcorn State University in Mississippi. He came to Ole Miss to do his graduate work. So he learned his skills in undergraduate school. He was a terrific graduate student. He did produce some video and he worked at the student newscast. But he put his resume reel together independently of any of the broadcast faculty. When Sharon Alfonsi of 60 Minutes came to visit Ole Miss, she's an alumnus, when she came to visit and she met him, she said, what you need to do is be in Maxim magazine because you are good looking enough to be a male model. And so I think we were all very awed with his looks and the sound of his voice. But he didn't go to a news market very high. He is in Dothan, Alabama. And I wanted him to hold out a little bit longer for a better offer, but he had financial concerns and he had to go. So I will just let you look at this and decide for yourself what you think.
Rallies like this one took place in cities across the country. Demonstrators stand united for the message, justice for Trayvon. 57 million children around the world never go to school. And because of that struggle, the UN has officially declared this Malala Day. Despite a steep downfall in support, former Congressman Anthony Weiner will continue his campaign to become the next mayor of New York City. After his latest sex scandal, he dropped from 1st to 4th in the latest polls. CDs and vinyls are a dying breed due to the easy access of digital downloading. But stores like Academy Records bring light to the end of that tunnel. A few tips. Police say when making a long trip by yourself, always remember to turn up the music, roll down your windows, and always buckle up. The sober limit will apply to places like sandwich shops and movie theaters, forcing them to get rid of 32-ounce large cups like this one. It was at this gas station where Emily Rogers said that she was assaulted by 3 locals from the Oxford area. The plan was for Danny to graduate from Brookhaven High School and move on to community college. Now those plans have been put on hold. James Meredith's decision to integrate Ole Miss was a step of courage. His legacy continues today, even 50 years later. If you're paying for gas or grabbing a cup of coffee, police say always remember to grab your key out of the ignition, or your car just may vanish. With high hopes, the Ole Miss All-TC team is up at 6 a.m. every morning preparing themselves for the Ranger Challenge in Texas. I'm Brandon Rook reporting for Newswatch 99.
Now that's obviously too long. Obviously too long. I would have
Unless the news director is a woman.
Yeah. Well, obviously, I'm impressed with his looks. Yes, and I do believe the news director where he went was a male, so it might have been too long. But something happened in there that worked. There's some clever stand-ups, obviously. He front-loaded his round robin with the stand-ups he did on his internship in New York. I'm sure his thinking was the stand-ups in Oxford are not going to be as good, but I really think they were as good. So all of that New York City in the background probably didn't really help him. He could have used his later stand-ups as well.
They were more creative, yeah.
They were.
That's something that, I find myself telling students over and over and over again. They put what they think are their big stories.
Right.
I got to go cover the convention. Well, who can't get a good story there?
Right.
So, put that city council story that you took a boring meeting and made it into a good television story.
Sure.
That's what's going to impress an instructor.
Right. I think so. Yes.
I just want to know, because a lot of those stand-ups, we found ourselves kind of giggling and laughing.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know, at what point does it become, you're not very credible because you're kind of too entertaining, where they're kind of making fun of you at that point. So it's creative, but it's also really cheesy, and I'm not all for cheesy.
Dana?
Well, I was going to say when you drink beer.
Don't drink beer.
But the kid got hired. I mean, so you can find an exception to every rule, but I wouldn't have let that on my student newscast, let alone would I have hired it in wherever that young man got a job. And you know what? 10 years from now, the kid's going to be on network, and we're all going to think, oh my God, he learned how to produce. Or something.
The resumes that I'm seeing online are even more involved than this. So I don't know what the line is, and I don't think any of us know what the line is. I don't think if you ask these 3 news directors, they could tell you, don't cross this line. But they have to, I think what they said, and the lesson we should take away today is, you've got to move, you've got to talk, don't stand there. Right, and be involved in the story some way or another.
And I think that's the point. It's not making fun of him or making light of whatever he's reporting on. It's just seeing that different personalities.
Well, yeah, and I think that, it's showing some sort of creativity. So you could say it's cheesy, or you can say it's like a little goofy. What's that?
At least they're trying.
But they're trying, and that shows like they've got a mind that, yeah, okay, once we do this a lot more, this kid's going to have, a lot of potential.
It's also one of the
I think
things that
that's
the
what
news
they look
directors
at.
will not put words to, but every newsroom has a culture. And every market has a culture. I worked in the only market in the United States of America that refused to air, CBS affiliate, that refused to air the Cagney and Lacey, dating myself, episode that used the word abortion. Blocked the show in the entire market. This was in the mid-'80s, granted. But it's a reflection of the market, the station, and the news director's sense of humor. And it's where it's about the match. I've got the right look, I've got the right sound, I've got the right stuff, but I just didn't.
If I could follow up on that, I happen to know that WTVA in Tupelo has hard and fast dress code rules. You cannot wear sandals that don't have a back to them. They will call them flip-flops, and you're going to be out the door. No cleavage whatsoever at any time, and no bare arms, even on the morning show. So you have to understand, you're going into a market that's small, that people may be very, very religious and have concerns about it being too sexy. And so you're sending them to a wide variety of markets, and you kind of have to straddle that line. Laura, you had your, yeah.
I was just saying, we're looking for producers too, and I think what these stand-ups show is that he understands the concept of producing his stand-ups. And when he does cut-ins, and he uses nap pops, and he uses pacing elements in stand-up, it's very engaging. And I think, well, he might be able to do that in my newscast as well.
It's good TV.
That's good television, and doesn't strike me as cheesy.
Okay. Yes, you've had your hand up.
I just wanted to offer some advice on this. How do I avoid cheesy? If you ever think, if you're going to walk the line between clever and cheesy, you're going to step in cheesy. Do a second stand up that's straight. And then take it back to your newsroom, take it back to your news director and say, I've got both of these. Does this one cross the line? That way, at least you're covered. You've got the one that's a little bit more straight. It took you an extra 30 seconds, but if they like the clever one, then they like the clever one.
There's a question back there.
I was going to say something very similar.
Very similar,
I think
okay.
the other thing I was going to say is the key word being intelligent. Clever and intelligent. If you're just being cutesy and silly and look at me and how funny I am, that's a little different. Being clever and intelligent, you're kind of in a pretty good zone.
And you had a comment? I'm sorry.
I was going to say something very similar. I talk with my students about this all the time, and I've seen this WFAA in Dallas. They will regularly roll out something that is clever, but funny is subjective. Whenever you talk about something, you go, oh, well, I think this would be really funny. Yeah, but it's not clever. Yeah, it's lowest common denominator. And these, I liked it where you showed a car disappearing behind them, and that kind of thing. That's clever. It may be funny, it may be cheesy, but it does illustrate a point. It makes me want to watch the rest of it. So.
Yes.
For men, normally they have the same look no matter what. Right. Women, we toss our hair up and we look like a whole different person. So consistency on a resume reel, are you looking for all hair down, all hair up? You know what I mean? Something like that. Or would you like to see different looks?
Dana's our appearance person. So.
Yeah. Go for it.
How was that? If you can show different looks, then you should try to. But your hair should not be your focus.
Exactly. Define looks.
Well,
yeah, that's what I'm trying to
in a suit, this is not going to work. What you have on here, right?
Yeah.
No matter what the story is, no matter what the market is.
Mm-hmm.
So a suit jacket, a sweater set, just a blouse, skirt and pants. And the problem for the women is you have so many more choices, so you have so many more opportunities to make mistakes.
Yes.
It's easy for us. But who noticed the same tie on the dude in
I
the
do.
stand-up montage?
Yeah.
Right? Would never happen in my
They have to change the tie.
Right. I have 350 of them. I bring some of them to work, so it wouldn't happen. But for us, it's easy. For you, it's very challenging.
You know, Bob Noonan, the first news director, was one of my students, and he had on his resume reel, he had grown a beard for a time, and he couldn't get a job anywhere because they were afraid he could grow that beard back. So that would be a thing you wouldn't want to do, is have a beard.
And I would say hair color consistency.
Yeah, hair
The
color
only
consistency.
thing. You wouldn't have blonde hair and one stand up and brunette.
Right.
Yeah. You don't want to do
Yeah, I
that.
was gonna say, be careful of the different looks.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I've had calls from news directors, you know, love this person, but can you please tell me what they look like now?
Yeah.
You know, because the hair was a different color, a different length, they gained weight, they lost weight.
Right, and so we're talking just color, but do you have highlights?
I do.
Right, and so that's, you know, now we're into that, you can spell gray with an A or an E and they're both correct. So it's not just go from brunette to blonde, you have to worry about your highlights and the consistency of what they do look like and what they will look like.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that, you know, a news director wants from that montage is, what do you look like right now?
Right.
You know, I mean, it's part of television, it's a big part of television. So, you know, if you have to go out and reshoot a stand-up from an earlier story that was really good, I would say do it. I mean, in college you can get away with that. Once you get beyond college, you don't get to reshoot and that kind of thing ethically. But in college, you know, they understand that. And so the more, you know, the news director walks away in that 30 seconds that they're going to give you with a clear idea of what you look like and what you sound like, you know, the better impression you're going to make.
Yes.
I've heard on the same panel the last couple of years, you guys saying that long hair was a no-no for women. Is that still true? Or actually news directors saying that too.
I think they said it. I see anchors and reporters with long hair. I think that's changing. Don't you, Dana?
Again, easy for the men, harder for the women. And
Like
this is what I say to my students. When you're a 22-year-old woman, you're trying to look 35. When you're a 35-year-old woman, you're trying to look 22. I just saw back on CNN Natalie anchoring. Natalie, beautiful blue eyes, square jaw. Natalie Allen. Did you see how long her hair was? Oh my God. She looks like she's going clubbing on a Saturday night with her girlfriends. Now I don't know where she went, Rich. She was gone for a while, and she was on overnights, so let that.
I think she's on CNN for a while.
Okay. I'm a short hair guy for women. I'm a professional length for women. Again, particularly for the 22-year-olds, you have great hair for a high school cheerleader, is the line I use with most of my students when they're freshmen and sophomores. And if that's what you want to look like when you're a 21-year-old or 22-year-old graduating senior, fine. Go find yourself a high school football player.
But I don't need to be noticing your hair. Yeah. If your hair is in your eyes, if your hair is I mean, there was recently a photo on Facebook where the hair was so completely twisted into something that looked like it had been done by a vacuum cleaner. You know, I noticed that. Don't make me do that, right?
The key is that your look shouldn't just detract.
Right, exactly.
Well, and having been a director of television news, if you have like big bangs and stuff, you're really hard to light. So you don't want to be hard to light. You don't want to be hard, like things that cause shadows on your face, or if your hair comes down like this, you're hard to light. So I would say get it back. However long it is, it needs to be back. Yes?
Just out of curiosity, when you say short hair, do you mean like this? Or,
No, this is a great length right there on this young woman.
What about the
And I would say, I would call that an adult haircut too. I would call that an adult
I'm
haircut.
talking like my length.
Oh, your length is fine. You're a
No,
boy.
I'm talking like if a woman were to have, you know, people are doing shorter now.
That would probably be
Something like
bad.
Jennifer
Yeah,
Lawrence.
that would-
Yeah. Is that something that's accepted? Or?
Well, it depends on the face too.
It does, yeah. Some people look great with short hair.
Yeah, they do.
bodies
Yes.
attached.
Black women can pull it off better than white.
That's
Yeah,
right.
That's true.
There, I said it.
Let's have one more comment. You got, there's all this expertise out here. What advice would you give? Anybody want to take a crack at that? Yes.
You know, I would take someone who's like Candy Crowley any day, and a pretty boy who does tricks. I think it comes down to good reporting, good skills, good presentation.
Good writing.
And good writing.
Yes.
Good writing. You've got good writing. Anything else? Yes.
When hiring directors, what kind of things are you looking for multimedia-wise as far as online stuff, kind of tapes, things like
You
that?
mean directors that direct the show,
Yeah.
not news directors?
Yeah.
Actually, the station where I actually work in the summers is completely automated. So understanding those systems or getting where you can do that. If you go to a bigger
So is it mostly
market,
resumes?
it's mostly resumes. Yeah, what they can, so that they can see what you can do. And also, there's a lot of, have you used this switcher? Do you know this automation system? That sort of thing. Yes.
If you email a resume, is that the person who's actually going to see it, or are they just forwarding it to the next person in line?
I think from what Dave said is you should do your homework and find out exactly who needs to get that resume and send it directly to them with their name spelled properly and all that. And I know that's really hard because when we were trying to get these people together, they move around from market to market and you don't know who's the news director and it takes work. But all you have to do, I tell my students this all the time, you pick up the phone. I know you guys don't do that very much anymore. You can go online and find out the number, and whoever answers the phone, you say, could you tell me who the news director is? Would you spell that, please? Does he have an email? Can
Is it
I
a
have
man or a
that?
woman?
Yeah,
The
get on.
quality of that email really matters.
Right.
I mean, the email to which your resume is attached really matters.
Did you put that email up? Dave did send us, he did say that, no, it was Lee, sent us the email, and he said that the email was very important, and that was part of what made him go further. And he also was impressed with the fact that she had included a whole lot of links on her email to, this was my award-winning college newscast, and this was my, and she said what they were, and she had the links. He was real impressed with that.
So this was the first email she sent,
It says, here's my advice.
Yeah.
No, that's
that was down at the bottom.
That was what she forwarded to him, but this was the
At the
this
beginning,
was the
to
email.
Lee Anderson.
Yeah, I've attached my resume. Well, no, maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe not. You're right.
But
Probably.
he did send us
But
one.
he did when she wrote the email to him. She said, "Nice to meet you, of course. Here is my resume, and here's some of my award-winning work." That's perfect.
Yeah, you described the wrong one. There were
Right.
like probably 10 links at the bottom of it.
And things like spelling and grammar and that sort of sentence structure stuff.
Using the right to and using the right
really important. You're not sending a
your-
text to your boyfriend.
Yeah. OMG! I really want this job.
That's a good point.